You are listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
Grab your boomstick and fire up the Delta. It's time for ACTION. Join the Cult of Campbell.
Groovy.
And if you're lucky a little later, I'll let you play with my boomstick.
Welcome everyone to Cult of Campbell. I'm Ty, and I'm here with myself today. This is something that I didn't really reach out to the rest of the group to be part of because I wanted to do this by myself, solo. I'm also going to be thanking everyone, and I want to do this from the heart and on my own. This coming Wednesday, 2 days from now, will be the 2-year anniversary of Cult of Campbell. That is mind-blowing to me. In 2 years, we have produced a ton of content. Cult of Campbell has spawned off into different projects. We have our annual Cultober event, which we do all kinds of horror-themed reviews that go exclusively to YouTube. We have Cult of Lore. Ben and Eric have their own podcast now, which is fantastic. They cover all kinds of deep dive fantasy stuff. If you're a fan of Warhammer, definitely check that out. Bailey and I have our own podcast, Cult Talk Conspiracy, which covers, of course, conspiracies. And we do a lot of deep dives in there as well. And maybe, just maybe, Mike and I may be having our own podcast this summer. Keep an eye out for that. Might be some news dropping real soon for what that may be. But we're here to talk about Cult of Campbell. In 3 days, it will be the 2-year anniversary. And sitting here reflecting on it, I just want to make sure that I did my due diligence. I never considered, we kind of say it every now and then in the podcast, or when me and the team are kind of hanging out, they call it my podcast. But I've never considered it to be my podcast because I don't do anything but sit behind a microphone and subject them to sometimes very painful cinematic experiences. But this is a team effort. I would never consider this be my podcast. I think that would be kind of selfish of me to do because there is an entire team, entire unit. Cult Talk Net is a network. We are not one individual. With these people that I'm going to thank here, this podcast would certainly not have happened. We certainly wouldn't be going 2 years strong. And I wouldn't have the experiences that I am so grateful to have now. So I want to thank the team, first off. There is an unsung hero amongst Cult Talk Net, kind of a satellite member, I guess. He's on the payroll. He is the one that edits some of our stuff when our usual editor, Mike, is the guy that helped pave the way. But every now and then, Mike gets a little overwhelmed with the amount of content we put out, which is pretty crazy at times. And that is Essie, Riley Essler. And man, he is fantastic. Mike found him, brought him on board. He's so fun to work with. And he takes some liberties that I absolutely love that he does. One example in particular is he did the porn conspiracy episode for Cult Talk Conspiracy. And in the opening intro, he added a little, "Oh yeah," and it cracked me up so much. I didn't know it was going to be in there. So I'm listening the day of release. I'm driving to work in my car, and that happens, and I cracked up. And he just fits so well. Like, we have not met Essie. We have not met him. I think Mike may have at one point, but we have not met Essie formally. He just kind of in our Slack chats, and he's just the funnest person. He's an adventurer. He is a busy guy, and I get kind of envious when I see him traveling the world, and no one knows he's traveling the world and editing Cult Talk Net podcast at the same time, which kudos, bro. We love you. We're happy to have you on board, and thank you for everything you do. That's a good segue into Mike, the yin to my yang, if you will. I've known Mike since I was a kid. I think me and Mike grew up together pretty much. We lived just a hop over the hill from each other, and we didn't become really good friends till high school. I knew him mostly as this kid in our elementary school who just cried like a little bitch all the time. True story. Oftentimes in our elementary school, you would walk the halls and there would be Mike staying in the hall crying. Why? Who knows? Just like to cry. But he got all that out of his system early, I suppose. Maybe that was his plan. Not a bad plan. But Mike, I don't think that Mike and I ever would have thought that our lives would just be so entwined. We were just two kids hanging out in high school. And we've lived together on multiple occasions. We've shared some ups, some downs, been there for each other in some very dark times. And when I wanted to start a podcast, he was the one who coached us, coached the whole team along. Like, because Mike is very smart, he's very intelligent when it comes to this kind of stuff, and he let us know how to do it. He took the reins, edited our episodes for us starting off. He just, this wouldn't be a real thing. I mean, we could have probably done a podcast without Mike, honestly, but it would have been shitty and it would have had no structure and it probably would have lasted 2 months. We'd have probably tried to record it from our iPhones to save money because we weren't really sure. You can just put an iPhone. iPhones have a memo on it. You can just do a voice memo, and you put that on iTunes. That's how it works. That's how we would have thought it would happen. Mike and I actually have been podcasting for 10 plus years almost. We had a podcast back in the day called Team Live Badass, where we just interviewed local musicians, and that's where we cut our teeth there. Mike is, I wouldn't say the boss because he ain't gonna tell me what the fuck to do. I don't listen to Mike, but he does give us some structure and he points us in the right direction. I would say if there is a higher up to Cult Talk Net, it'd be him. I'm still the pod god though. But the rest of the team, this podcast started out, there were 6 of us, and one of the first members was Eric. Eric and I have known each other for a little while. We worked on some film projects together. We were part of like a filmmaking group that didn't really go anywhere. We worked on an actual feature film that got released in theaters. And Eric is just one of the sweetest guys. He's a little sweet guy. He's a sweet guy. He's a little nervous dude. He's nervous. And that's one of the things you get with Eric. He is constantly on edge. I remember he was so on edge when we got to go up to Colorado to meet Bruce for Bruce Fest 2022. I would just, get his attention. Hey, Eric. And he would immediately respond, what? He was so on edge. He thought that the world was crashing around him. And he and I actually got to share the stage with Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi. Let's not forget Ted. We got to share the stage with Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi. And I look over as Bruce is just owning the stage because they told us when we went up there, they're like, hey, lead the conversation, ask him some questions. Oh, by the way, if he goes over, cut him off. We only got half hour for this. In my head, I'm thinking, sure as shit not. There's no way I'm coming to Bruce Fest, named after Bruce Campbell, interview Bruce Campbell, and then tell him he's gone over time. I wasn't going to be that guy. But we did the Lunatics panel. Lunatics, A Love Story, which is a fantastic hidden gem in the filmography of Ted Raimi. The vast, deep filmography of Ted Raimi. Lunatics gets lost in it. Lunatics was his big starring role. Ted Raimi is the marquee name in that film, and it is actually really good. We did the After Lunatics Q&A panel. We were to host that. And here it is. Ted and Bruce on one side, Eric and I on the other. I've often called Eric my Ted Raimi, and it was surreal. I'm sitting across from a duo that I love, and here I have Eric right there with me. And I look over as Bruce is just owning the crowd. I mean, he had told us at the beginning, he was like, I've got this. You guys just chill out. So basically, it relegated Eric and I to having the best seat in the house. We just sat there on the stage in front of a couple hundred Bruce Campbell fans and just listened to Bruce talk about this movie. Him and Ted just ramble. And I look over at Eric, and he is shaking like he's in sub-zero temperatures. I mean, his hands are fumbling around. He's gripping the mic. He's squirming. Nerves to a level I've never seen. I've seen Eric in some pretty precarious situations. I have never seen him this nervous. The panel goes off without a hitch. I landed a killer joke at the beginning. That's what some people say. I'm not saying that. I was just that was what was relayed to me. People said, "Oh, you killed that joke at the beginning." We got the stage. Bruce and Ted go their separate ways. Eric and I meet up with Mike. We go to the car, and Eric melts. He has a full-on panic attack breakdown, the likes of which I had never seen. It was a sight to behold. Eric is he's always willing to say yes. He doesn't say no often, and oftentimes he'll say yes and realize very quickly probably should have said no, but it's too late. And he has taken on some pretty crazy tasks here on Cult Talk Net. If you guys listen to Cult Talk Lore, which is he and Ben's podcast, Cult of Lore, they do these really cool full-length video episodes. Eric learned how to edit. Using I don't want to say the wrong program. He uses a program on the MacBook, and he edits, he animates, which is mind blowing. Some of the stuff he makes, it pisses me off. I'm like, that's so fucking good. Why are you doing this? It's so fucking good. But he does it. It's fantastic. Mike taught him the ins and outs of kind of editing his audio. So a lot of the audio you hear on Cult Talk, on Cult of Lore, is Eric editing it under the guidance of Mike, and it's unbelievable the amount of will he has to do all that stuff. 'Cause it's just crazy. He's a busy guy, and he finds time to edit these videos. And this is stuff he didn't know 2 years ago. He didn't know how to do this kind of stuff, and now he does it on his own. It's wild. Speaking of Cult of Lore, Ben is, I would say, we brought on about the same time Eric. I pitched it to Ben. I met Ben through Eric and the film project that we worked on. I had met Ben through that, and me and Ben see eye to eye on little things, on a little bit of stuff. We have kind of a similar taste in movies, I would say. I feel like I'm maybe a little more cultured than he is. He's still got he's got to develop some taste. We don't see eye to eye on some stuff, which is to be expected. But I have grown with this podcast. One of my favorite things is I will see a movie that we have lined up on Cult of Campbell, and I'll be like, this is a movie that I want to hear Ben groan in agony while we're watching, because the groans of agony that come from Ben have become euphoric for me to hear. I love it. As soon as I hear him groan in agony, I know we're in for a nice little Ben Frost rant, and I love it. I think he has grown to know that when I say, "Oh, I want Ben on this episode," that he's in for some experience, and most likely it's not going to be a great experience. But I think that it makes for fantastic content, and I love subjecting Ben to these painful watches, because some of the best episodes of Cult of Campbell, I feel like, are the bad movies, because you're watching a movie and it's if it's not that enjoyable, you've got to make it enjoyable. And sometimes that's just letting Ben squirm in pain and then go on a little tirade, and that makes for fantastic audio, in my opinion. Urs, I have known Urs for many years. We met through our friend Butters, rest in peace, RIP. Get well soon, buddy. And we met through Butters. We worked on a really shitty movie that we never quite finished. We actually wrote. It's called Killer Mutant T-Rex from Outer Space 2, The Return of Killer Mutant T-Rex from Outer Space. I actually have that full script wrote. It's on my drive. We shot a trailer for it. We began doing like effects work for it. And then it just never happened. It just never went anywhere. We also had a YouTube channel back in the day called Not Occult Films, where we did reviews of horror movies, and they weren't that great. The kind of, we didn't really put a lot in. We wanted to review movies. What it was, we wanted to review movies, and we didn't want to handle all the video editing aspect or the audio stuff or the lighting, things of that nature. But we wanted to review movies, and we did that with our friend Connors and Butters, RIP. And we did that for about a year, maybe less than a year, maybe 6 months, something like that. We put out a lot of content. We were uploading at one point daily reviews. It was pretty insane for the amount of experience we had. We were doing daily uploads. It was wild. We eventually cut it down to like 3, I think, and maybe it went down to like 2, then 1, then kind of just went off in the ether. Cult of Campbell actually came from that. We were going to do a summer event called the Cult of Campbell, where we were just going to, the original concept for it was, I had bought a 3-pack It's the Bruce Campbell collection DVD that has Man with a Screaming Brain, Alien Apocalypse, and My Name is Bruce. So I had bought that, and the idea was we were going to take that, Bubba Hotep, and I believe Terminal Invasion, which at the time was on Prime Video. And we were going to put that in a hat, shake it around, and every episode we'd have to review whatever the movie was we pulled out. And that was the original idea behind the Cult of Campbell. And I think I still have that graphic somewhere. Maybe not. It's been years ago, years. But that was an idea we had, the Cult of Campbell. And I think myself and Connors actually shot a pilot of that. That was us doing the drawing. We were laying out the schedule. Oh, we're doing Man with a Screaming Brain. And My Name is Bruce, that kind of thing. I think we actually shot that and never released it. But that was something we did. And that was where Cult of Campbell came from. And Urs had been like kind of in our chat. We had a group chat. And Urs was going on for a while, but we should do a podcast. And Cult of Campbell came. Urs didn't object. Me and Urs kind of have a similar taste in movies again. Maybe a little more cultured than him, but that's all subjective. And brought him on, and Urs was one of the first ones that we had doing the YouTube uploads for us. He would do all the videos we put on the youtube.com/culttalknet. Yeah, Urs, he's usually not willing to say no to a lot of stuff. Usually I'll bring up a movie, and he's generally not one to argue with being on them, except for Maniac Cop 2. He flat out said with Maniac Cop 2, he said, I am not being a part of that movie. He hated the first one so much, which, I will say, first one's not a great movie. Maniac Cop 2, fantastic. He objected to that. That's the one time where I was like, man, Urs didn't want to be part of a movie. I was shocked. But one day I'll get him. He'll watch Maniac Cop 2, mark my words. Bailey was actually, she was in the background of Cult of Campbell. She subjected herself to some of these experiences and didn't have a payoff to it. She sat through some of these bad movies. Man with a Screaming Brain, for instance. She was there with Ben and Eric and I while we watched Man with a Screaming Brain. And wasn't even on the episode. She wasn't part of Cult of Campbell yet. She sat through it for no reason. I know Man with a Screaming Brain is one of those contentious films, but Bailey sat through it, didn't even give her thoughts on it. She just watched the movie, and what a champ. But she earned her right to be part of Cult of Campbell. I think Congo was the first time we brought her on. And that was kind of around the time when we was like, all right, Bailey had brought up the idea of doing Cult Talk Conspiracy. She wanted to do it for a while. And I had started a conspiracy podcast back in the day with my friend Connors. That didn't go anywhere. I think we tried to record the first episode, and it was the fucking shits. It was bad. And we have a theme song for it somewhere. I'm sure Mike has it. Mike keeps everything. If you send Mike something, he's probably still got it at any time. But yeah, I had that, and I was, she kept saying, I want to do this Cult of Conspiracy. It didn't really go anywhere. No one was really biting. And I was eventually like, I want to do that too. So I pitched the idea. Hey, let's do it. Just you and I. Here's the format we'll use, so we can do bi-weekly, because she was originally wanting to be a monthly podcast, and I was like, that's not gonna fly. It needs to be bi-weekly. So we ended up come up with this concept and the structure of it, and through that, Cult Talk Conspiracy was born. Bailey and I have done some Cult of Campbell's where it's just been me and her. We did Mind Warp last year for Culttober. She's been on several episodes since then, and she usually has a pretty good time on Cult of Campbell. It's good to get that female perspective when they're looking at the king. So Bailey was a late addition to Cult of Campbell, but she has been fantastic. Now, some other people we want to thank here, or I'd like to thank, are artists. We have artists on Cult of Campbell. We have one of the first things. We, for a long time, used a logo that I made, just Cult of Campbell, as a simple text logo. We still use it, but that was like the main logo for Cult of Campbell. A few months ago, I was like, man, I really want something else. I want like a face of Bruce Campbell. I want people to, because Cult of Campbell, kind of vague. If you don't know, you don't know. I want it to be like, people hear Cult of Campbell, they see that, they know exactly what this podcast is. So my partner, Evan _artist on Instagram, they made me a amazing rendition of Bruce Campbell, added some different things I wanted from some different Bruce Campbell projects, and that made our Bruce head that we use on a lot of our stuff, and that was great. Before Evan came on board, though, when we started out with Cult of Campbell, Ben had actually mentioned the idea. He's like, "Oh, we should have like characters. Maybe when we get like far enough ahead, we can do like a thing where, if I'm talking, the little Ty character's up. If Ben starts talking, the little Ben character pops up. Things like that." And we was like, "Oh, that's kind of a good idea." Well, it's like, I'd like to have a representation of us anyways, make us more, relate to the audience a little more. They can see who's on it, who's part of it. And there came to be our friend Dave. Oh, Dave. Dave is a fellow that we met through a film project, of course. Just the coolest guy. One of the most welcoming people I've ever met. One of those shirt off your back kind of guys. And he had done these really funny little characters for the film project we was working on. He did them as kind of placeholders so we'd know where our actors were placing. And I thought they were so fun, so cute. I was like, hey, can we get these done in us in Bruce Campbell themed outfits? We're a cult. We're dressing as Bruce Campbell. And I was like, I'm Elvis. I want to be Sebastian Haff from Bubba Hotep. And then from there on, I kind of picked everyone else's. Eric has an affinity for like the fantasy kind of stuff. So I was like, there we go. He's going to be Atilicus. Atilicus, that's fantasy. Ben likes guns and, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, he can be Ash. There you go. Got chainsaw hand. What's more badass than a chainsaw for a hand? Urs is into a lot of different stuff. I'll be honest. Urs was kind of on the bottom. I was kind of going through things, and I was like, well, what do I make Urs? Jack of all trades. Jack of one season, as Bruce Campbell calls it. Urs is very much for, like, the old school, like, America kind of stuff. I was like, that would be perfect for him. He can be Jack from Jack of all trades. Mike likes Burn Notice a lot. He loves procedurals. And throw an Hawaiian shirt on him, and all of a sudden you're Sam Axe. And Bailey came in late, and I was like, well, who do we pick for Bailey? It's a female character. It's female, so who do we pick? And I was like, I don't know what's left. I didn't want to make her, Evil Ash, where she's got a bunch of shit on her face or anything like that. And I was like, hey, what's a recognizable Bruce thing that we could have Dave produce for us? And of course, an S-Mart employee. Shop smart, shop S-Mart. And that's where Bailey's character came from. So very appreciative of Dave for making those. And he still does work for us now. We even have him working on a special project for Cultober coming up. So keep an eye out for that. Can't think of enough. He gave Cult of Campbell its identity very early on. And I'm so happy with these things. I use them constantly. Anytime I post a Cult of Campbell, I have these things saved. And I just love looking at them. I think they represent the show perfectly. And again, Dave, thank you so much. And Evan, thank you so much for the Bruce head that we get to use for all of our stuff. Fantastic. Can't thank you both enough, because the work you do, I love it so much. One of the things that Cult of Campbell did for me is, I've been a Bruce Campbell fan since I was a kid. And I've always seen Bruce on screen. But I've never met Bruce, or never met Bruce at the time. We got reached out to, I'd say it was probably back in it was early 2022. We got reached out to by a very lovely lady named Selena. Selena reached out on Instagram and said, hey, I'm part of this thing. We see your Bruce Campbell podcast, all this. And I thought, 100%, I was like, this is a spam message, but it's really weird because they're not asking for money and they're referencing Cult of Campbell. What's the gig? What's the jive here? What's the game? And I reached out to Mike. It's like, is this real? He's like, Messenger. So I messaged her, and Selena has been fantastic. She is just the loveliest person. She has been just a breeze to work with. And Black Ink Presents, the people behind Bruce Fest. They are the best people. I'm going to name a few. I'll probably leave someone out, but I apologize. Black Ink Presents, we think of them as friends because they afforded us an experience that I would have never imagined us having. Cult of Campbell, we back in our first year, we got a like on our Instagram from Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell liked one of our posts. It was a post of him as Santa Claus from the Librarians. He liked that post, and you would have thought he reached out and gave us all a nice little peck on the cheeks. We were so excited. Bruce Campbell liked one of our fucking Instagram posts. Cut to a year later, we're meeting Bruce Campbell. We're sharing a stage with Bruce Campbell. We're hanging out with a couple hundred of the most fun Bruce Campbell fans in the world. And all that's possible because of the people at Black Ink Presents and Bruce Fest. And I just want to thank a few of them. Selena, of course, big thank you. She's the sweetest person. I have her number on my cell phone. I messaged her when Bruce-orama came out. Full disclosure, I messaged her. I was like, hey, I'd really like to be part of this. And she put me in contact with Bruce's agent, and we got to kind of coordinate that. And man, so grateful for her and Black Ink Presents. Black Ink Presents, of course. I'm gonna name some names here, and if I forget you, I apologize. I'll give you a Bruce Campbell pin next time I'm at Bruce Fest. So I forget, you come say, I'm part of Black Ink Presents. You forgot to say my name. Where's my fucking pin? And I will give you a pin. So there you go. Selena, Molly, Danny, and Paul. Paul and Selena were on our podcast, and that was really fun. Paul, great guy, great dude. And Danny, super cool. He has, Danny, go and say it, coolest t-shirts ever. I saw him at Bruce Fest every day. He wore a t-shirt that was like, where the fuck did you get that goddamn t-shirt? That's the coolest fucking t-shirt I've ever seen. Yeah, coolest t-shirts. And man, I love those people. They're friends of ours, I would say. I mean, maybe we're just this Bruce Campbell podcast. These fucking weird ass dudes talk about Bruce Campbell, but to us, they're friends. And we thank you guys so much for affording us the opportunity to meet and share the stage with Bruce Campbell. Never in my wildest dreams I thought that is where Cult of Campbell would have taken us. And it wouldn't be possible without you guys. Bruce-orama was a thing that happened this year. My second time getting to meet Bruce Campbell. And we didn't really know about Bruce-orama until we were reached out to by Mr. Jeff Melson of the Caverns in Pelham, Tennessee. He reached out to us and was like, hey, we want to do this thing. We helped him do some stuff. We promoted it on the pod. And he's a super cool guy. He called me a couple of times to kind of shoot the shit with me about advertising and merchandising. And he's a cool dude. Shame we didn't get to go. We had so much stuff going on at the time. We didn't go to the Tennessee event. We made it to the Columbus event. We didn't get to make it to the Tennessee event. But Jeff, you're a cool dude. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. Bruce in the Cave. Yes, that was the subject of the email he sent me the first time. But Jeff, cool guy. Thank you for working with us and also for asking for us for our input on things. That was pretty wild. He said, hey, you guys know this stuff more than we do. You know about the Bruce Campbell stuff. What's some good things for us to kind of lean into? And man, cool guy. And such a fun place, the Caverns, Pelham, Tennessee. Check it out if you haven't. Beautiful venue. It's insane. It's a cave that they converted into a concert venue. Mind blowing. Rounding things up here, one of the coolest things that came from Bruce Fest was Mike and I got to be part of the Bruce Fest Friends Discord. All these people from Bruce Fest are in this Discord, and we chat, we play games, we joke around, we share things back and forth. It's just I don't have a lot of Discords. I'm going to say like, oh, it's my favorite Discord because it's my only Discord, but it's one of my favorite like group chats to be a part of. I love when I get a notification from the Bruce Fest Friends Discord that it's going to be something fun. It's going to be something interesting. And it's going to be something Bruce related. And that is always a good little pick me up to the day. And some people in there that I want to thank personally. These are the people that we actually had on the Tales from the Cult miniseries we did here on Cult of Campbell, where we brought fans of Bruce Campbell on to learn a little bit more about them. We talk a lot about Bruce, but it was only fair we talk about the true Cult of Campbell, the fans of Bruce Campbell. Freck, they were so fun. They had some really cool stories about cosplay and a bootleg Funko pop, which was pretty interesting to talk about. Freck, fantastic. I was so glad they were on the podcast because it was the first one. It was the first Tales of the Cult. I was like, how is this going to go? And they came on, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a fun series. They set the bar. Ash, not that Ash, the other Ash, Ashley, the queen of Bruce Fest, the winner of Last Fan Standing at Bruce Fest. She was an absolute joy to have on. She's such a bubbly person. We bumped into her several times at Bruce Fest, and I think she was one of the first people that I was like, hey, I have this idea. I want you to be on the podcast. And she was like, absolutely. And she has some very interesting cosplay stories as well. Cosplay is a big thing amongst Bruce fans. And I guess Bruce Fest is a basic convention that attracts cosplayers. And who doesn't want to dress up as Bruce Campbell? You got a fucking chainsaw as a hand on your Ash. But she was so fun. She actually told me some stuff after the podcast about her husband that blew my mind. I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, I met this guy at Bruce Fest, and I had no idea that he was this guy who worked on some movies that made my childhood. Carnosaur, Tammy and the T-Rex, blew my fucking mind. She just drops it like it's no big deal. Hey, oh, by the way, my husband worked on it. What? Blew my mind. And I'm definitely going to have him sign my Blu-ray copy of Tammy and the T-Rex when I go to Bruce Fest. Let's see him again. Speaking of Tales of the Cult, how could I forget the Vesey Bros, Jackson and Ben, two good kids that we met at Bruce Fest. Actually, I think it was Ben who had Ben kind of went through and like spam-liked a bunch of our stuff on the Instagram. And then he was like replying to everything when I was like post about Bruce Fest. So that's how they got on my radar. Then I remember I was going into I was walking up to the Stanley on the second day, not the first day. It was the second day of Bruce Fest. I was walking up to the Stanley, and there's Ben, and he's like, "Hey!" He recognized me because we had intentionally posted a bunch of pictures of myself and Eric and Mike on our stories, so people would recognize us and they could come up and say hi to us. And he said hi. I gave him a pin and everything, and we met him throughout the weekend and took some pictures with him. Interviewed him for a video, which Eric, I think you might need to get on that. Still hasn't been released. We'll have to get on that because I really do want that to come out, because I think that's a good little video to show some of the people we did get to have on Tales of the Cult, because there are some people on there that we interviewed, and I'd love to have them showcased. So we might have to get on that. This should go on Eric's to-do list. Yeah, the Vesey Bros, super cool guys, into everything. Filmmaking, cosplay, music, insane. Just two kids with a lot of aspiration, and I really admired that. And parents, bring them up the right way. Raise them on horror. Raise your kids on horror. Coming from someone who has no kids of his own or any experience with kids, 100% guarantee if you raise your kids on horror, they'll turn out super good, super cool. But yeah, the Vesey Bros, I was very happy to get them on Tales of the Cult. Another two people who we talked to at Bruce Fest when I had the idea for Tales of the Cult. We talked to them and was like, hey, we're going to be hitting you up here soon, and we want you on this show. And they were all for it. So yeah, big thank you to those guys. Honorable mention here, Craig Newman, agent of Bruce Campbell. He's been really fun. He actually helped us get situated with Bruce-orama. Thank you so much for that. Anyone I forgot, I do apologize. This is kind of off the cuff. I wanted to make sure that I adequately thanked everyone, because it's 2 years. This is a big deal for us, for me, for the pod, for Cult Talk Net, because Cult of Campbell launched where we are today. We wouldn't have a lot of the stuff we have part of the network if it wasn't for Cult of Campbell, this shitty, random little fucking Bruce Campbell podcast that I somehow roped my friends into being part of. And it spawned all this. It let us cut our teeth and grow and figure out how we would do things and structure things. And all Cult of Campbell is kind of a testing ground for all that. And I thank you guys for listening. That's one of the main things. If you guys are listening to this, thank you so much. Because we wouldn't do it if we didn't have listeners. There would be no sense in doing this if we didn't have people listening to it. And you guys are the Cult of Campbell. You wouldn't be listening if you weren't a Bruce Campbell fan. This is a very niche podcast. I said that from the beginning. There's 100 horror movie podcasts, but Bruce Campbell podcast, Not many of those. So let's go ahead and let's do that, and let's do it the best. Let's be the number one Bruce Campbell podcast in the world. And if you look that up, it's a fact. Thank you guys for listening. Again, I'm Ty with Cult of Campbell, Cult Talk Net. Next week, we are releasing a very special 2-year anniversary episode of Cult of Campbell. And it's not just me rambling and thanking people and being sentimental and stuff. It's actually going to be a very fun episode. We are going to be talking about a Campbell favorite, a certified groovy film that we did back in the past. We're revisiting, so I'll let you guys keep an eye out for that, because it is going to be a fun one. It's a 2-year anniversary special, and we hope you guys really enjoy it. We pull back some really cool stuff. We throw in some dates and some timeline of how Cult of Campbell got started and where things kind of came from, and it's super fun. We're actually theming. Next week is a themed week across all 3 of our podcasts. We're doing a Cult of Campbell 2-year anniversary special week. So Cult of Campbell will have an episode on Monday. Cult Talk Conspiracy will have an episode next Tuesday. And next Thursday, Cult of Lore is even joining in the fun and doing a kind of Bruce-themed episode. So keep an eye out for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting us ramble about Bruce Campbell for 2 years. We hope to do it for a lot longer. I thank you guys so much. You guys are the Cult of Campbell. And with that, make sure you follow us on @CultTalkNet across the board: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the things. You'll find us somewhere. If you type in @CultTalkNet across anything, we're probably there. But until next time, as always, stay groovy.
Hail to the king, baby. That's it? That's the best you got?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.